chaos at the courts, and sure enough, our political leaders who can't manage our economy, who cannot manage our border, who can't manage the world, by the way, are out there trying to make hay out of this disastrous, treacherous leak from the Supreme Court. And by political leaders, I include the President of the United States of America. I have some questions. Number one, how the heck did something like an opinion for Roe v. Wade get leaked in the first place? What was the motivation other than pure politics? And number two, what on earth are the Democrats really trying to pull here? With the way they're trying to ride this one all the way to the bank? Think about that. I'm all over this story today for you, plus new details about what Elon Musk is actually really and truly planning for Twitter. We're going to talk all about that. Plus, Senator Marsha Blackburn, she's got a scathing critique into this so-called disinformation board out of Homeland Security. We will discuss that. And keep in mind, as we approach the latest and greatest rate hike out of the Federal Reserve, we need to talk seriously about the odds of recession. I mean, I hope it's just a little one, but I think we're going to get one any which way you slice it. Welcome, everyone, to the Trish Regan Show. It's so good to have you here. Today's edition of the show is sponsored in part by Legacy Precious Metals. There has never been a better time to invest in precious metals, clearly, than right now. So go to legacypminvestments.com for more. Learn how to invest in gold and silver. It'll pay off in the long run. Our country and our courts are in chaos tonight. Chief Justice John Roberts has confirmed the authenticity of a Supreme Court draft opinion that would overrule Roe versus Wade, though he admits it may not have been the final resolution. I just want to state that while I'm all about transparency and I'm all about getting information to the public, this particular case is highly unusual. It's an extraordinary breach of privacy and threatening, frankly, to the institution that is the Supreme Court and to our country. Now, the Chief Justice has ordered an investigation into the leak of the draft. Just to get you up to speed, you should know that on Monday evening, a 67-page opinion by Justice Samuel Alito was published in its entirety by Politico. It had been circulated within the court according to the date stamped on it of February 10th, and it was to be ruled on at the end of June. This has never happened before. I mean, this has never happened. There's a sanctity, right, if you would, to the court that someone there in the halls of justice clearly does not respect. Now, regardless of what side of the political aisle you are on, think about what just went down. Regardless of how you feel about the issue of abortion, you got to think about how this happened and how it was done so deliberately in an attempt to undermine the justices, to intimidate them potentially, and clearly to create a major political issue. That is what we are going to have right now. You know, law clerks, they will be examined heavily in this because they typically see these opinions as drafts before they're signed by the justices. So they have to pledge all kinds of confidentiality. They have to avoid journalists. But someone, and we don't know, we're just speculating on the possibility of a law clerk. One would hope it's not higher up in the food chain. Someone chose not to respect that confidentiality. Someone chose to give this to a journalist. There's going to be a whole lot more to come on this investigation. But in the meantime, you got the Democrats milking it for all its political worth. Don't forget, the left was really struggling to galvanize its party around, well, anything, right? Anything, given the state of the world we're in. Well, now they apparently found their issue. You got everyone from President Biden to AOC to Bernie Sanders leading the charge on this. And instead of being concerned about the privacy of our courts, President Biden is out there criticizing the justices for, potentially looking at this decision. Just as he jumped on Air Force One, I want to share with you what he said on Tuesday afternoon. He said, quote, really quite a radical decision. In other words, what was leaked was a radical decision. And then he went on to say, it doesn't represent who's going to vote for it yet. I hope there are not enough votes for it. So clearly what's happening is that we are now taking this up, what was once in the courts, as a public issue. It has been politicized. And if I were the president, if I were a lawmaker, I'd be highly concerned with what just went down. He may have his own view on Roe v. Wade, and he's entitled to that. He's made that abundantly clear running for office. But at some point, you have a system in place. You have a country in place. And you need to trust that system. You need to trust the country. You need to trust the Supreme Court of the United States of America. Turning right now to the administration's big brother government disinformation board that is going to be headed by a musical theater singer named Nina Jankowicz. I mean, really, she likes to sing. Quite poorly, I would add. Quite poorly. Anyway, she's, in addition to a singer, she's a disinformation expert, allegedly. Well, a growing number of critics are coming out now. They're questioning the administration's motives on this one, including the use of taxpayer funds to allegedly re-educate the Hispanic population about, quote, voter disinformation. Senator Marsha Blackburn out of Tennessee, Republican out of Tennessee, she sent a pretty scathing letter to Homeland Security today expressing concerns that the government will weaponize this board as a political tool to discredit legitimate criticism of President Biden's policies. Senator Blackburn wrote, and I quote, "These concerns are substantiated by the appointment," I nearly said disappointment, appointment of Nina Jankowicz, who has a history of political partisanship and supporting dubious claims as the board's executive director. Well, the senator there is referring to some of Jankowicz's tweets, including a recent tweet on April 25th, where she said that the thought of, quote, free speech abolitionists gaining control over social media platforms makes her, quote, shudder. Shudder! Shudder! Because somebody doesn't agree with your viewpoint? Somebody's going to challenge your viewpoint? I explained in yesterday's podcast some of the challenges that she was up against, in that she was promoting the idea that you should never wear masks because Anthony Fauci told CBS News you don't need masks. And she was really annoyed that everybody was trying to go and get masks. Of course, that was the party line then. Party line became very different within a few weeks. So she's just spouting party line. Whether or not that's disinformation, well, we don't know. It's just the party line coming from the White House. That's what they want taxpayer money to do. None of this, meanwhile, I should point out, is deterring Elon Musk. Elon Musk still's moving ahead for Twitter. We have some details on all of that coming up for you. But first, I don't have to tell you, America's facing all kinds of challenges, huge challenges. You have soaring inflation. You've got radical ideas that are being forced upon the next generation. You've got a worsening crisis at our southern border. You've got alarming crime rates. You name it. Well, you know what? It's time to join forces here with an organization that loves and respects America. AMAC. It's the Association of Matured American Citizens. It is America's conservative 50-plus organization. My friends over there at AMAC, they are action-oriented. They are fighting every single day to represent you and your interests on Capitol Hill with the AMAC advisory team. So join today. All you have to do is go to amac.us/Regan, and you're going to start receiving amazing benefits, all kinds of discounts on travel, cell phones, restaurants, all while importantly fighting to preserve America and the causes that conservatives care so much about. It's just $16 a year. You can join forces with AMAC and 2.3 million Americans who share your values. Be a proud member today. Go to amac.us/Regan. Join or renew today. Getting back to the Elon Musk news and Twitter, Elon Musk is reportedly considering taking Twitter public again a few years after he rights the ship by taking it private. This is all according to a new report in the Wall Street Journal. It's not surprising at all. It's one of the things I actually suggested he might be looking to do initially. It does cite reporting from the private equity community sources there at the Wall Street Journal that say Elon is telling investors he could return the social media company to the public markets just a few years, 3 years after going private. Now, if he succeeds in securing investment, that means he's not going to have to fork over all that money himself. He can lower the $21 billion price tag that he'd planned to kick in himself. And apparently private equity firm Apollo is said to be looking at participating. Keep in mind, this is what the industry does, right? The PE industry goes in, they take these companies private, they spiff them up, and then they take them out public again. That is how they make their money in the public markets when they then make their profits. So stay tuned. It could be kind of a wild ride. He may take this thing private. He's going to clean it up. He's going to fix it up. He's going to make it more profitable, because we've talked about how they really didn't quite understand how to maximize profits at this company, at Twitter. So, and then you take it public again. That's how it works, right? Capitalism at works. Turning to the markets overall, you know, investors are bracing for a half-point hike in interest rates coming Wednesday afternoon. That's the expectation anyway. It's certainly been very well telegraphed by the Federal Reserve. There are a lot of questions nonetheless about what it will mean. All these rate hikes, we just got a quarter point, now we're getting a half point. There are more to come. What do they mean for the overall economy, including the housing market, right? Given this expected uptick in mortgage rates that comes with higher rates overall. The cost of money, the cost of borrowing is effectively going up. So what does that mean for homeowners? What does it mean for people looking for new homes? We'll see. We'll see. Right now, housing prices have been staying quite steady, which is good news for homeowners. It's maybe not the best for new home buyers, because they'd like to see those prices come down, but we still see a very hot housing market. Anyway, it does matter for people that are looking to refinance. I mean, I would recommend that you look to do this sooner rather than later, only because the direction on interest rates right now is going up. So if you want to save a few $100 a month, maybe more, depending on what your mortgage is, you should consider a mortgage refinance while you can. Again, especially while home equity is on the rise, right? Values are going up. And you got to get in there before mortgage rates go up too much. The thing is that there's more to refinancing than just a lower rate, I should point out. There's a whole lot of other things you can do. For example, you can shorten your term, you can access cash, you can consolidate your debt. But if you want to do any of this, make sure you call American Financing. American Financing is America's home for home loans. It's where you can get a free mortgage review. You can learn all about custom loan options before moving forward. There's no pressure, there's no obligation, no upfront or hidden fees, just a simple conversation around ways that you could possibly save up to thousands of dollars a year, which amounts to tens of thousands of dollars long term. I mean, think about the difference that could actually make in your life, and give them a ring today. If you start soon, you could actually, they say, close in as fast as 10 days. Call 1-888-504-0547. That's 1-888-504-0547. Or you can visit AmericanFinancing.net, NMLS 182334, NMLS consumeraccess.org. Again, that's AmericanFinancing.net. But as we look to the Fed here and what happens, I think you can be assured of this. This is going to be a big move. I do expect that they'll come through. They've certainly got the political capital, so to speak, in the markets to come through with this half-point hike. So I'd be awfully surprised if they didn't. I do think that the markets are increasingly getting sort of used to this idea, which is important. I would argue that they need to do this. I mean, we are looking at serious inflation. Yesterday I told you about food prices were up 31% versus this time last year. That's just not sustainable, and inflation can be a really dangerous thing if it's not kept in check. Then again, a lot of this could actually already be priced in. Again, you've got a very talkative Federal Reserve. I like to say, guys, where's the mystery? Like, where is the mystery in this relationship? They keep telling us over and over and over again exactly what they're going to do before they do it. I do wish that they had been more proactive about reining in all the money printing and actually hiking rates earlier on. They weren't, but hey, better late than never, I guess, right? We'll take it. I think the market will be able to take this in stride, but I do think the reality is this. We are looking at a recession. I put the odds of recession at 85%. I don't think it's going to be an extraordinarily bad one, and I say that as somebody who's lived through some really bad ones. 2007, for example, into 2008 comes to mind, and the challenges we then had after that, including the European debt crisis following our debt crisis here at home. So those were real problems. But look, you know, recessions are part of life. They're a cyclical thing. If you don't have one for so long because the Federal Reserve is kind of out there propping things up, artificially preventing it, well then when things fall apart, they fall apart in a much bigger way. right? And that's what you could actually argue about what happened in 2008. The Fed allowed money to be so cheap, thereby encouraging all those banks to get into the subprime business. But we'll save that one for another day. Just suffice it to say, yes, they're going to raise rates. I do not think it's the end of the world. I do think that there's going to be a recession. However, I do hope it is a mild one. Thank you so much. Hey, big news. I just joined Truth Social. Truth Social, another social media platform. So you can check me out there at Trish Regan. I don't have the underscore this time. Usually it's Trish_Regan on Instagram, on Twitter. TRISHINTEL.com, by the way, is the website. And I am at Locals, which is TRISHREGAN.Locals.com, TRISHREGAN.Locals.com. But yes, I am on Truth. I look forward to seeing you there. I look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow. And we can talk about new developments in this mess with the Supreme Court, as well as this mess with the government disinformation board and what the upshot of this whole Fed thing is going to be. I'll see you then.